Back with a highly requested video today.
Okay, for sure. And what is that going to be?
We're going to talk about what happens at a Jehovah's Witness funeral.
Yes, and what makes it different than maybe a normal funeral that you and I are used to.
All right, we'll get into it. Now, something interesting we end up finding out about this is that Jehovah's Witnesses don't really support other religious funerals. And don't quote us for it, because we heard recently there have been a change of, well, it's a conscious matter. So
everything, it seems like everything now is a conscious matter, but things were much different whenever we were there.
They were. So what we have to do is go to jw.org, because we're like, oh, conscious matter. That's interesting that they gave this new light. So let's go to this article called How Do Jehovah's Witnesses View Funerals? Now, you can read the whole thing, but we're going to skip down to the bottom and look at this paragraph here. You want to read it, babe?
Yeah. So it says, do witnesses attend funerals conducted by other religions? Each witness decides for himself based on his own Bible-trained conscience. However, we do not share in religious ceremonies that we feel are out of harmony with the Bible.
This that bull.
I swear, because they're like, oh, it's up to you, but
right.
This is how we view it, and you shouldn't do it in a way that we view is wrong.
Because this is not I believe, this is we.
We.
And you can't give a statement and say this and then turn around and twist it the whole different direction with, see, notice the however, we do not share. So obviously other religions don't share the same beliefs as Jehovah's Witnesses. So consciously you are told that you shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
Even though we're saying you got the freedom, this is like that free will teaching.
Yeah.
Oh, you got the free will to do something. But if you don't do what I want you to do, it's going to be consequences. Well,
oh, for sure.
I don't feel free now.
Yeah. And you know what? Some people may not understand what exactly that means, like how other funerals are and other religious ceremonies. But in this article, they actually point out like different ceremonies that they would not want to take part in. So we'll go over that. Okay, so right up here it says, okay, the dead are unconscious. We all know that that's what Jehovah's Witnesses believe, that they are just back to dirt, okay? So it says, regardless of our ethnic or cultural background, we avoid customs or practices based on the unscriptural belief that the dead are conscious and can influence the living. So there's a whole list of things that they don't believe, like including customs such as wake keeping, lavish funeral celebrations and anniversaries, sacrifices for the dead, talking to and making requests of the dead, and widowhood rites. We avoid all these customs and practices in obedience to the Bible's command. Separate yourselves, ... and quit touching the unclean thing.
They got in, I ain't even gonna dive too deep into that, but if you know Black history, everything that our ancestors believe in became demonic once Christianity colonized us. And the main reason why they don't want Jehovah's Witnesses learning anything else at these other funerals, because any slight thing might spark the rabbit hole of realizing this is a cult, or realizing that's why they give you information and give you what you can read and tell you what you can't read, because that might influence you, or that might wake you up out of this cult. So let's just nip it in the bud. Don't go to no other funerals. Don't read nothing online. Don't listen to what nobody else says, because this is unscriptural against our Bible that we made up ourselves.
Yes, and it's just so interesting because they're like, oh, you can use your conscience to, you know, decide if you're going to go to one of these funerals. Even going to something as simple as a wake. Which almost every funeral has a wake nowadays. You know what I mean? That's just a thing. So even something like that, they're like, no, that's believing that the dead are still conscious, whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, like if you're losing somebody in your life and they pass away, it is just normal to pay your respects and go to the funeral.
For real.
That's regardless if there's a wake, regardless of whatever customs they do there, like who cares? If it's not your custom, you don't have to like necessarily take part of whatever custom that they're doing.
Or
believe
in it.
Or you don't have to believe in it either.
No,
literally.
you don't.
There's so many people that were worldly who still went to a Jehovah's Witness funeral. You know what I mean?
And it was welcome. They encouraged it.
Yes, and this is what is so hypocritical about them, because in the same breath as them saying, you know, the dead are unconscious and you don't want to go to anything that, you know, believes that maybe they are conscious. You don't want to commemorate their lives like we commemorate Jesus' lives every year.
Hypocrites. Literally, Jesus was alive and died, and they believe he's still living according to their teachings.
Yeah.
And every year they drink blood that represents Jesus, and it's not at any time, because you have to include astrology. The moon has to be at this place, at this time, at this day, to drink this blood, for this body to represent him. That's literally what you're saying.
They drink wine that represents the blood.
Come on now. It represents blood. How does that sound?
Yeah, it sounds super spiritistic, as they would put it. Because if you're doing that for anybody else, then it's a problem.
And I never met Jesus, but I know my grandma or all these other people that passed away, and I can't do nothing to represent them. I would want, once I'm gone, I would want my people that I love
to remember
me.
me.
Don't act like I just don't exist no more. Just keep me up here in your mind. Talk about me.
Yeah.
Put my favorite food out. Or if you're drinking, pour some out for me. Like, come on now. This is the normal stuff we talk about while we alive. So I don't like how they switch up once people are gone to just act like, oh, it's just they don't exist. They nothing no more.
Right.
It's very arrogant, and even though I don't believe in this stuff, I can say this is what I believe, but I can't say this is fact, because none of us have knowledge on what happens once you're gone. Because whether we live multiple lives, we all here. Even if we live lives before, we don't have the memory of it. We might have deja vu, but we can't say for a fact this is what's going to happen once you're gone, and it's fact. And if you don't believe it, you wrong and you worship the devil. That's arrogance in these teachings.
Yeah.
No,
it definitely is. And I think that people will try to say, oh, well, there's a difference between human beings and Jesus. But you guys have to view Jesus as Jehovah's Witnesses view Jesus, because they don't view Jesus as God. So you cannot say that he is a God. Technically, he's just the Son of God, and that is how they view him as well.
The greatest man to walk the earth. Sound like they putting him on the same level. He was just the perfect version, but it sound like he was a man, and somehow he died just like a man does.
Yeah, and that's another reason that Jehovah's Witnesses are very hypocritical, because at least other religions of the Christianity origin will be like, okay, well, Jesus is a God, so that's why there's all these separations between, you know, him and man.
Definitely. And other people, at least in the other religions, they believe that like Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe in the soul. They don't understand matter can't be created nor destroyed. You can't be a person, even if you see a dead body, it looks like something is missing. You look at it's like, man, this them, but
it's not.
It look empty. It's something. Yeah, it's lifeless, because
lifeless.
that's literally the soul. It's something inside of here in this body. It's basically like being inside a costume.
Yeah.
Your thoughts, your actions, your energy, everything like that is what's inside, and this is like the shell.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's so true.
That's all it is. And you can't say that once a person is gone, it's just nothing.
Yeah.
No, this inside of here goes somewhere. You may not.
And even just the random things that happen in your life, because so many people believe in like spirit guides and things like that, and like their family members who have passed on, you know, still looking upon them. People who have lost their kids and, you know, like through miscarriage or whatever the case may be, and they're like, oh, like they're still looking down, you know, like just the random things that happen through your life. Like I've heard of so many people who have had, you know, a miscarriage, but then they end up carrying and having the baby on the due date of the old baby. Like that type of stuff is crazy. Like some things are just like not explainable
At all. And who are you to tell somebody what they experiencing? That's the arrogance of Jehovah's Witnesses. When somebody says, oh, but so-and-so, they still looking over, they laugh at you. Okay. For some people that got a lot of new light on their teachers being wrong and having to correct them, who are you to tell somebody that and that's the difference between people that are into this religion like Jehovah's Witnesses and people that are open-minded, because you can say, I don't know, it could be not, but Jehovah's Witnesses are, no, this is this ain't.
Yeah.
This never, I'm not sure.
What is wrong with saying, I don't know?
That's simple.
I'll find out later. Like, what's wrong with saying
Nothing wrong with that.
Something else that was kind of funny about this article. Okay, so many people who have been to a Jehovah's Witness funeral, a lot of them will say it just seems like they were pushing their beliefs the whole time.
I swear.
Well, let's see what they have to say about that, okay? So it says, we do not try to impose on others our beliefs regarding funerals. In this regard, we follow the principle, each of us will render an account for himself to God. However, if we are given the opportunity, we do try to explain our beliefs with a mild temper and deep respect.
They are hitting themselves in the foot with this however.
However.
You can't, the however has to go along with what you just said. It can't go against.
It goes completely
against. It's like, I've been sober for 6 months.
However, I had a drink last night.
It's like, well, you ain't been sober for 6 months then. You just took it the other way. No, this is not cool. But if you've been to a Jehovah's Witness funeral, for one, they don't. I'm gonna say from my experience, I've never been to a witness funeral that had the body there.
No,
never. It was, and when people are not a part of the family or things like that, they come to a funeral expecting to see a funeral, and they walk in and they're like,
where's the body?
Where the body at?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? So that's one thing they don't do.
Even if it's closed casket, it's like, okay, the body's here with us. Like,
right. Like, that's backwards about them. So they don't support going to other funerals. Their funerals are weird. And this is the most disrespectful thing about Jehovah's Witnesses funerals. 20% of the funeral is about the person. 80% is a recruitment process. And y'all can relate to this. They mention the person a little bit. And the only time they'll mention the name is while they speaking on the recruitment. Jehovah's Witnesses or Jehovah will bring so-and-so back in the new system. And for us to see so-and-so in the new system, we have to do this, this, and that. And how do we do that? Well, the Bible says here. And we'll sing this song out of the songbook of our religion. It, like, the whole thing is just for anybody that's not a Jehovah's Witness here. This is for you to be introduced to it so we can recruit you. The disrespect.
And they do all of the, the paradise talk and like seeing them in paradise and all these things. And it is just a very disrespectful process because you're not truly remembering or sending off the person that has passed on. You know what I mean? It's like you're using that moment and taking advantage of it. And
it's a curriculum that the funerals have to be by. Like anytime else, the family gets to do it like how a family does. Like certain people get to come up and speak.
Yeah.
This is a Kingdom Hall talk, basically in funeral form.
Yeah.
A certain brother is responsible for giving the talk, and everybody has to sing together. And the worst part about it is if you are disfellowshipped and related to this family member, you would think, all right, even though you disfellowship and we don't talk to you no time, this is the worst time of your life. Like my mom disfellowshipped during my grandmother's funeral. You would think people gonna put their arm around you or talk to you. You are still shunned, and it's looked at as, well, hopefully this will make them come back. And it's ridiculous. And even worse, you don't even get to come up and speak at your own parents' funeral because you are disfellowshipped. You're not worthy of this, no matter how bad the situation is. And then afterwards, once they have the dinner, if you are disfellowshipped, you are not invited. The worldly family members can come eat, but you can't. You gotta go home. You disfellowshipped. So after this, you gotta go home or go about your business, and you can't even be a part of this closure with the rest of the family. That's messed up. That's cold.
And that's the time that like you need your family the most, because they like, especially just imagine like your siblings and stuff. It's like in that case, like they lost their mom, so like you want to be around the rest of your siblings and recalling all the different times that you guys had together. Like and remembering your mom in that way together. But
you can't. Everybody gets to be together except you. Like that's cold.
Yeah, and sometimes that is a time where like it will bring non-witness and witness families back together a little bit because it's like a wake-up call sometimes. Like they realize, man, like we haven't been talking this long for what? Like for what? And people can just be out of our life this quick, you know? But for others, that's not the case, Like a lot of times the same dealings happen afterward, and maybe they get a little softer around that time, but then it goes back to being cold.
Now, I've been to a lot of witness funerals, and it's always awkward because the other people that are there are just like, this is different.
Yeah.
And I'll say one of the worst ones was my grandmother's funeral when she passed, and the family already feels a type of way about Jehovah's Witnesses. And my grandmother was always fair and treated everybody equally.
Yeah.
But always would try to recruit her sisters.
Mm-hmm.
They could have regular, conversations too, because my grandmother was cool like that. But at some point, she would try to invite them to a special talk or memorial, and they would never go. And talking about it with her siblings now, they like, Karen, she was too smart to be part of that religion. I feel like she just did it to save her marriage. That's what all her sisters say about it to this day. Like, Karen was so smart.
Yeah.
I don't know how she fell for that, but I don't think she believed in it 100%. And looking back, I feel like she did believe in it, but the fact that she never stopped talking to my mom, even when my granddad as an elder when they would get reminders at assemblies, he would try to be like, all right, now we gotta get back serious. And my grandmother would be like, okay, but no. Like, she would still talk to my mom and stuff. Yeah, like, no, it was just certain stuff like that made me question, like, how serious was she, about this. And she was battling cancer for the last 12 years, so this was like a hope thing. And something that her siblings brought out, they were pissed. The funeral planner at the end, they put these resurrection Bible story pictures all through the planners, and one picture of her on the front. And her sisters is raw and uncut. They like, who the F is all these white folks in this pictures? Like, man, this is some BS. They ain't got no family pictures. They ain't got no childhood pictures.
Yeah.
And it's like, looking at that from the outside when you're not a part of this religion, it's messed up. It's like, this is how you send somebody off.
Yeah.
And you can't even put the memories in here.
Yes.
And this planner is based off this religion and a recruitment process. And it's all because the family is influenced by this cult to push the message of this religion over the message of the person going away.
That's bad. I've been to Jehovah's Witness funerals where they do have like pictures of the family and things like in the little planner, or even sometimes like it'll be somebody in the family that got together like a slideshow or something.
Yeah.
But even in those, it's very taboo to even put somebody who has been disfellowshipped in those pictures.
Yep,
like that's not really something that you do.
For real. And I know other people got way worse stories about their situations, especially if they like the only child or something like that. I can't imagine that. Only child and losing like a disfellowship parent, or vice versa, like a parent and losing a child, and they can't really be a part of their child's funeral because they disfellowship. Like this stuff, this ain't cool. It is messed up. But yeah, we got some questions on that. And I remember telling somebody in the comments, like, that's on our to-do list, but we're going to kind of briefly talk about what happens at a witness funeral. And y'all share some stuff too, because I know we done left out a whole lot, we left out a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, but hopefully, if you've never been to one, you don't have to go to one, because it's all it is basically going to
recruitment process.
Yep, it's like going to a Sunday meeting. Mentioning a person that passed away a little bit, but also this is a reminder that this cult is the answer to life, and you need to hurry up and be a part of it because it's too late, because we in the last days. Yes,
and if you want to have the privilege of seeing your dead loved one again, then you have to be able to make it to paradise. So,
which requires you got to come join us in order to see this person again. Otherwise, you ain't gonna get it. Yep, but on that note, what we got for them, man?
We have our healing journals. We have the Pimo version and the regular version. Make sure, if you guys have gotten it already, leave us a review at our Instagram at Awaken Truths IG. And we also have our
TikTok. Hit us up on there. Follow us. We're trying to run them numbers up. We got to get to like 1,000 followers or something like that soon. 1,000, wow. And that's at Awaken Truths LLC. And last but not least,
don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you guys in the next time.
Peace.